Several things of note occurred or about the downtown Los Angeles area experience that I had in 1981 down at the Mission and some of the soup lines and places I go when I was on the road. For one thing, most of the places that I'd stayed from when I'd left May 22nd or something of 81 until I got to Los Angeles, which was probably late June, early July, is I'd stayed in like Salvation Armies and little small missions and whatnot, maybe 20 or 40 people tops. But the downtown Los Angeles Mission was big, and it probably would sleep 50 or maybe twice that, maybe 100. I know it had a couple of different dormitory style rooms, and each room probably had 20 or so double bunks. I don't know. I'm losing detail over time. But another way you could tell about how many people were there, or coming and going at least, is the downstairs area where they would have a service before each meal, and then you'd go into the kitchen area and eat. The downstairs area for the service was really large, and that room probably seat at least maybe 100. I think it was in pews, but it could have been set up as chairs, like folding chairs. And it was set up like in a church with the altar in the front, or at least a podium. I don't know what kind of an altar, if it was an altar, or if they had a crucifix, or if it was strictly Christian. I don't even remember that. I do suspect that it was Christian. I suspect it was Protestant. Probably Protestant-funded Protestant churches. But and I don't think they had a service. They probably had a prayer, but a little more than that right before the breakfast. But you could get lunch there, which was basically a bowl of beans and a piece of bread and a cup of Kool-Aid, maybe a donut or something else with it. I don't know. And you could get a dinner there. And I think the dinner was a little more elaborate. Usually it was maybe something like a noodle casserole with just a little bit of meat in it, but probably chicken, but and a piece of bread and a cup of coffee or tea, or I'm not sure. I believe they maybe had Kool-Aid too. And you'd have all three meals each day, whether you slept there or not. And so a lot of people came there just to eat. But I believe they give you like 2 or 3 days in a row to sleep there each month. But after those 2 or 3 days, you'd be out for the next 30 days or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Different ones in the missions rotated differently. But they'd also give you a clean suit of clothes, donated suits and cheap suits and sports coats, and just sort of dress slacks, and shoes, if you needed shoes. They usually had shoes, socks, underwear. Sometimes they'd give away blankets, but I believe that was generally mostly in the winter, and they would run out. They also would have coats, but I believe they also would run out. It just depended on how many people were coming there and how many donations they gotten. And I'm sure that most everything that got donated got used one way or another. It was really a nice service that they provided at the time. I believe that whether you stayed there or not, you could come in and get a shave and a shower. And they'd even spray you for bugs. I mentioned that already, which was a good thing, because some people that were there probably had bugs. I know that at one point I actually got bugs, and I believe it was probably from sleeping there, but just talking about the body lice, really terrible, nasty. And actually they weren't particularly nasty. They mainly get under your arms, the ones I had, under your underarm hair follicles. And the main or best way to get rid of them, the only way that I knew that they at least offered, was they'd spray you and they'd take your clothes, and those were discarded. I don't know if they burned them or whatnot, but I don't think you can wash it out of them. I think they had to get rid of them. And maybe they can. Maybe there's something chemical they could add, but I believe, at least for their operating procedure, for the most part, they just threw them out. And then they'd give you a new set of clothing, shirt and pants and whatnot. But the terrible thing about them, they weren't particularly dirty, no more dirty than you were. If you were taking a shower every day, then you were relatively clean, and they weren't moving just everywhere. Mostly it was just around under your arms. And they would itch and they'd tickle. And so that was the bad part. It was just a nuisance. And I'm sure there's, I believe, a separate variety of louse. It's a body louse that gets in your hair on your head more than other parts of your body. And I believe there's certainly some that go for the pubes more than under your arms. But the kind that I had, and that I think was relatively easy to get in those kind of missions, was a kind that mostly was, I think, considered a body lice. A body louse, I don't know. And it would mostly stay under your arms. They'd crawl around every now and then and make you itch, bug you. It was awful. And it would took me 2 or 3 times of having them spray me down and throw out my clothes and give me a new set of clothes before I got rid of them completely. But I believe at the time I had found a shirt on the side of the road and decided it was a nice t-shirt and I'd wear it. And that could have been where I got it. But also I was sleeping out front of the mission. Even when you didn't sleep in the mission, some people would camp out front, and that way they got up for breakfast, I guess. I probably was camping out there for that reason. And it seems like in a haze of sleep, I can remember somebody being over me, and almost remember that they were dropping the little bugs on me. I mean, I don't know if it was a dream or if that's how I got them. But another thing about the day right after that, I had that dream as I was sleeping out there, is that apparently there was a murder there out front of the mission, that somebody had gotten killed. So I got the body lice. The guy next to me got killed. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I never did hear any more about it, and maybe it was just a rumor. Could well have been somebody trying to scare me off from sleeping there anymore, and probably a good idea that I'm not. I don't believe I repeated it after that. But, all of that stuff that you are at risk for. You're always at risk. Somebody's going to whack you. Who knows why? They didn't like the way you looked at them or what. A lot of crazy folks, and especially on the street. Some of them are drug addicts. Some of them are alcoholics. Some of them are just plumb crazy. And so that's always a risk. It's not a real high risk. I didn't see any killings myself. I only knew of 1 or 2 instances where someone might have died, but all I knew about was the story of it later. Someone telling me that, you remember that guy and so, and well, they killed him or something, and never saw it. Only saw a few fights, was in a couple of 3 or 4 different fights, never got hurt real bad. So, a lot of it is your mind worrying over those kind of things and stories you hear as much as it actually happening. But you are at risk. And you're at risk of catching body lice if you sleep at those missions. I'm sorry, that's just another risk. But more stories later. It was still, I believe, a worthwhile experience in my life. Interesting. Bizarre and a little scary at times, but interesting.